You are listening to Insights with Kathleen. Please join me while I share my insights and experiences with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself for the answers that you already have. As with all information we receive, take what speaks to you and leave the rest.
Hey, welcome back to, we are here with Sherry.
We are back with Insights with Kathleen, and I'm here again.
That's right. And we are episode 6?
Oh my gosh, you've been counting.
I have been.
That's so sweet.
My heart patters for you.
Aw, and it patters just as much for you. Yeah, and I've been faced with a lovely question. Shout out to my friend Shiloh, who is probably listening because she listens to a good amount of them. So thanks for listening. So one of them is about perfectionism. And it's something I've struggled with for many, many years. I'm in a creative field. I do like my own podcast. I do music. And many times when I am doing these things, I always have the temptation to throw things out, not complete them, all these things, just because I'll listen to it over and over and over again. And I'll be like, I'll listen to a song over and over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, there's this one spot that's just weird. And then I'll just throw the whole thing out. Or I'll have a song and I'm about to post it and it's just no, there's something off about it. I almost did that recently too, because I just put out a song and I was listening to it and I was like, it's going too fast. I'm about to throw it out and start again. And sometimes I feel like that sets me back. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. Not trying to be everyone. I think everyone has at some point. And I feel like even if you're not in a creative field, you've had either ambitions or things that you wanted to do. And you just almost set yourself back sometimes. I don't know.
Well, I feel like a lot of people can probably relate to that.
Yeah,
whether they're in a creative field or not. And then I think I wouldn't go so far as to say everybody has had an experience with that, but I would say that probably a good majority of people at one point in their life has struggled, right?
Yeah.
With that level of perfectionism where it's just not good enough. And I know for myself, just even starting doing this podcast.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that was definitely pulling teeth with you sometimes.
Yes. And you, Miss Perfectionist, you were really good about sharing certain wisdoms around that. So I think for me, doing this was a stretch for me. And it is a stretch for me because I'm just putting it out there. And yes, I make mistakes.
Oh, for sure.
So first of all, I think it's just, for me, I have to wrap myself around that and be okay that I made mistakes and be okay with that it's going to be less than perfect.
Yes.
Because truly the richness is in the less than perfect.
Oh, the imperfections. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that when we're striving so much for the perfect that we're missing out on the journey.
For sure. Yeah.
So, and then also with the throwing out of the song piece, I mean, the first thing, as you were talking, the first thing that came to my head is, why would you throw the whole thing out? Why not just fix the part that you feel like it's just off?
I don't know. It's almost I don't know if it's a mental thing or not, but I guess if you are writing music, you're hearing it so much because you have to listen to it over and over and over again. Of course, if you listen to anything over and over again, you're going to get sick of it. And then you're fixing different parts and nitpicking different things. And then you're just you know what? The whole thing's just bad. And just you just dump it out. So I think, I guess because I've been listening to maybe a specific song over and over again, I don't give my ears a chance to breathe. I'm just it's just bad. It's just the whole mix is just bad or something like that. So sometimes, not often, but I'll just be maybe I should just throw this out. I would even do that with old podcast episodes too. When I first started recording, because you told me about how it took you a little bit to start your podcast. When I started my podcast, I would do episodes. I kid you not. I would do episodes and I'd be it just sounds bad, and I wouldn't even have a specific reason. I would just be this sounds bad, or nobody's gonna want to hear this, or maybe this tangent's not good, and I would give myself all these excuses because I was too afraid to put myself out there and just put it out.
Well, I think the question that really needs to be asked when it comes to perfectionism is, what is it you're really afraid of?
Oh yeah.
So, and who are you doing it for? Right. So when I depending on what it is. So for you, it's a little more about putting yourself out there, right? Because then it's about your music.
Oh yeah.
And there's an aspect about you, and just like us right here, right now, doing this podcast, there's an aspect of ourselves that we're putting forward, and there's a risk that we're taking.
Oh yeah.
Right? So, and for me, one of the reasons why it's taken me so long to really move this forward, which, by the way, I'm so excited that we are doing this.
Yeah, it's great.
Because it's fun.
It is.
And part of that is that I wanted to make sure I didn't do a disservice to anyone.
Oh, for sure.
So I think by putting it out there to say, hey, number one, I am not perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to tell you, the listener, and you, Sherry, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
So what I put out there, take what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And as I always say, just leave the rest,
Leave
right?
the rest. Yeah.
But that aside, what else? What else is behind that level of perfectionism? Is it fear? And then what's the fear?
Well, I feel like, yes, it would be fear of because, I had never, now I've done so many different things and I'm very out there. But before, that was like my first time even stepping out doing anything. Because even posting things about it or just putting things on, I'm like, whoa, that's not something I would do. And I think, it's also very important, like the people you surround yourself with. Because I think, I'm not going to say that was the whole thing, but a bit of it was, my influences and people who were around me. Because I would get all these fears of yeah, this isn't good. And it makes you feel worse when your friend's like, yeah, actually, it's kind of bad. And you're just like, well, that's uncomfortable. Or they don't give you constructive criticism. So I think people who, the people you surround yourself with and people who are just there to either ground you or cheer you on. And constructive criticism is always good. That's very, very much something I would tell my younger self.
or that experience too is maybe a way of showing you how do you stand in your own power? How do you affirm yourself?
Yeah.
Because then if we're looking outside of ourselves for that affirmation or for that value, then we're missing something bigger.
That's a very good, oh my gosh, Miss Insights with Kathleen. That's a very good point. Honestly, yeah, just be confident in your stuff and just be like, hey, it's not.
Well, and it's hard. I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do, but it's just something to be conscientious of. The fact that, okay, I'm out here and I'm a big person of that. I love affirmations. Don't get me wrong. I mean, oh my goodness. I was working on something and I'm like, okay, can y'all just stop what you're doing and just look at this and just tell me what you think.
Tell me it's nice.
Like I know it's good, but I want to hear you tell me it's good. But then there's still that level of me in there saying, well, I'm not really sure if it's really as good as I think it's good.
Oh yeah.
But that's the thing. I should be okay with, if I think it's good, that's all that matters.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And I've just been more comfortable in saying hey, you know what? I think I'm funny. So here's something funny that I do.
I think you're funny.
Oh, thank you. On a weekly basis. Or I think I make pretty catchy music. Here's some catchy music to listen to. Some people like it, some people don't. But yeah, definitely affirming yourself is it's hard.
It is hard. And it's a practice, but it's not, oh my goodness, Sherry, I'm tripping over this word.
It's not unattainable.
It's not impossible to obtain.
There you go. Oh, there you go. Impossible to obtain. Yeah, no, that is very true. I never really thought of that. Just the affirmation, because I was the surrounding of people or just getting comfortable. But yeah, definitely affirming yourself is very good.
Yeah, it is. And then, and perfectionism could definitely be rooted in many things. And maybe it's a level of unpacking what that is. And we had talked about on the previous episode where you had learned to really check in with yourself and how something feels inside of you.
Yeah.
So maybe when we recognize this level of perfection that's coming forward, maybe it's an opportunity to check in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think for me, when I was in my bout of everything's gotta be perfect everything's gotta be, and I realized, wow, I just really like the control. And it was a very much a matter of if I could just control this, because I had some situations outside myself that was going on. I'm like, ooh, it might be a control thing. And I'm like, what if we just let go and just see if anyone even likes it? And if anyone doesn't like it, that's totally fine. So
yeah, and right now we've talked about perfectionism on things that we do, but how about those who struggle with perfectionism on how we look?
That's
Ooh, that's a biggie, huh? That we just took that to a whole nother turn, didn't we?
Listen, you always tell me that you look in the mirror and you're saying, "Hey, good looking, how you doing?" So like,
Yeah.
I want to get to that level. That was, a New Year's resolution I had maybe 2 years ago of like being comfortable with how I look.
Right. And then who's the authority on defining what perfectionism is in regarding appearance?
I know it's kind of like a eye of the beholder thing, but yeah, I just kind of like, I think for the longest time, even when I was a kid, like I would always avoid the mirrors. I don't know why. It was just like, just the self-confidence thing.
Because your eye was just not beholding.
It was not beholding me. It was not. And I was just like, I don't know. There wasn't that many kids around that looked like me. So I was just like, oh, I feel self-conscious a little bit. And I just never looked in mirrors. I was like so awkward. I never really liked to take pictures all that much. And
Well, it's funny because when we think about children, right, and I'm talking like preschool or younger, they're not spending any time in front of the mirror, and if they are, that's to play.
yeah.
Now my daughter, God bless her, she as a little kid, she had some challenges. She had like adenoids and tonsil issues that we weren't aware of because all my holistic approaches kept all of her earaches at bay, so the doctors really didn't diagnose it until much later. But by that time her lower jaw had grown way faster than her upper jaw, and I still think she was cutie patootie, and but maybe the rest of the world may not have, because she didn't have that full symmetry that we've all come to be attracted to, right? But she not for 1 minute ever thought that she looked less than or different or ugly or anything. She shined.
Oh,
and
that's
I
good.
love the glow that she had there. So kids don't even put that out there. It's something that they learn through society, through family, through just exposure in general, right?
Oh yeah.
So, and then there's that like lack of confidence, or who knows how that's really truly all built up.
Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't even matter. Maybe the power in what we're sharing here is that, hey, it's up to you to love and accept you.
Oh,
because
for sure.
you're the only one that matters.
Exactly.
What you think about you is all that matters.
Oh, and like, it's great because I've been like learning that and trying to like reinforce that with myself. Like, hey, you're very good looking. Sometimes I'll look at my old YouTube videos and be like, you know what? You were looking pretty hot that day. That's great. And it's so empowering to be like, you know what? The only opinion that matters is my own. Because then it's just like, wow, you feel the shackles off. You're like, wow.
Yes. And a phrase that I really like, that I couldn't even tell you where I picked it up, watching somebody, seeing somebody, reading something, is to be able to look in the mirror and look at yourself and say, I am enough. How empowering is that? I mean,
right?
just to hear the words right now, I mean, you're like, okay, well, yeah, well, I am enough. What's that mean? But to look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and to say,
so intimate.
I know, right?
So intimate, your own eyeballs.
Yeah, but just to say, I am enough.
Oh,
I am enough. Say it, Cherry.
I am
enough, right?
Yeah.
All right, you listening, say that to yourself. I dare you.
I am enough.
Enough.
Yeah.
And mean it. And if you are struggling with maybe this level of perfectionism or low self-esteem or low confidence, I encourage you to take a minute and maybe 4 times a day and look at yourself in the mirror and just say those words. And you'd be surprised. Do it as an experiment. I mean, what do you got to lose, right?
Yeah.
Just do an experiment. Check in with yourself, but get in there, look in the mirror, and just, feel it. At first, I bet you it's going to be uncomfortable as hell. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can. It's your show. You can say whatever you want.
But at first, it's probably going to be really uncomfortable
Yeah.
because one, awkward. I'm talking to myself in the mirror. Ooh. Okay, giggle, giggle, giggle. You get past that, and now I got to get real. And I'm sharing this message, as you said, this very intimate message with myself that I am enough.
Yeah.
And believing it, I am enough. Wow, the pressure that just came off of my shoulders, the weight that has just been lifted, because I don't have to measure up to what the media is telling me. I don't have to measure up to what my parents are telling me. I don't have to measure up to what my friends, coworkers, spouses. I don't have to measure up necessarily because I am enough. How empowering is that?
That's so empowering.
Right? And then when you can show up knowing that you are enough, then you show up so much more.
Oh yeah. No, that's a very nice feeling because, I guess sometimes I won't do that for myself. And I guess the biggest moments I have where I'm like feeling the least amount of confidence is when and maybe an older person or someone comes up to me and is like, hey, Sherry, so what are you currently doing right now? And I don't know if this has happened to you guys, but if you run into relatives or something like that, they're like, hey, what are you up to? And you have a list in your head of all right, these are the things. Well, I do a podcast right now. I'm in school right now. I'm doing this right now. And it happens so much. And then you're just like, wow, it doesn't even matter really what the script is because I'm just like, hey, I'm just having fun. And some people say, I think somebody, I don't know who said it to me, but a friend of mine was like, hey, I just say I'm having fun. Was that you? Did you say that? I feel like that's something. Somebody said that. And I was like, I laughed so much because I'm just like, you know what? I don't owe these people anything. Nope. I do a podcast and I love it. And I write music.
And it feels so much better, right? Because then when you're just saying, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
One, you're affirming that what you're doing in your life is fun.
Yeah.
So then you're telling the universe, hey, I'm having fun. Can we have some more of that?
Let's have some more fun.
Right?
I like this.
Because it's just going to come up. It's a nice little vibration to put out there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, too, is that you don't feel like you're being brought down by people who are asking you that question just to be polite and they really don't care what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. They do not care. They're like, I have 6 kids. You want to hear about them? And I don't care what they're saying.
Right? So, but if you go, yeah, I'm having fun. That's what I've been up to, having fun.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, I want some of that.
Yeah.
Opposed to if we were to list everything that we were doing, even though we find it to be fun and it's a lot and it's full, they'd be like sleeping halfway through the list, right?
Honestly, yeah. It's funny because whenever I'm going through the list, people are just like, oh, okay. But when I get really passionate about my podcast or whatever, I'm like, oh, I do this podcast. And they're like, wait, I actually want to look it up. Can you write it down for me? Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, wow, I was not expecting to get that answer. It's so weird, how much it translates to that. Oh, I'm writing a list of things in my head to tell people as opposed to being like, you know what? I'm just chilling. I'm having fun, Yeah. And I got to just remind myself hey, it doesn't even, you don't have to measure up to what these people expect of you. You just got to be yourself.
Nicely said.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Pat yourself on the back.
I'm patting myself all over. Not in a weird way, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you have a good resolve? Do you feel like you have enough information around perfectionism?
I feel like I do. I feel like I do because now I'm just more so you know what? Let's be present for Sherry. Because, the best thing that you taught me and, my therapist also taught me is think of yourself in third person. Are we being nice to Sherry? How does Sherry feel? And that's helped me solve a lot of issues. Because before I'd be like, oh, I'm the worst, blah, blah, blah. Something like that, negative affirmations. But then I'm just now I've thought of Sherry as hey, we're I don't know how to explain it. But I'm just hey, Sherry, how are you feeling today? We're sad. What's up with that? Let's talk. Let's go for a walk. So now I've been doing that more so with myself. I'm like, hey, Sherry, you were kind of apprehensive when you heard this question. What was that about? And I don't know. I encourage you guys whenever you're out and about, just check in with yourself. Just be like, hey, so-and-so, what's going on? What emotion are we feeling? And why are we feeling this?
That's beautiful. And that's nicely put. And that is a really good way to check in with oneself.
Yeah.
And that could keep that perfectionism little person
out
of the way.
Yeah, because now I'm just instead of being yes, chase perfection, it's hey, what's in the best interest of Sherry or Kathleen or whatever.
Yeah, because with perfection comes stress and comes, all this heaviness, opposed to if you just let that go, check in and say, okay, what's going on? And then having the fun in it. It's lighter and it's brighter, right?
Oh, for sure. And I know for me, I've been struggling with emotions because I've just been getting more in touch with them. And that's just been a thing. So at first I was no, I don't want to feel anger or these things. I just thought all of it as negative. But then I was just no, these things are just here to tell you something that's going on with you. So when I check in with Sherry, I always talk about body scans. Sorry, I can't go like a day without talking about it for some reason. So when I talk about body scans, guys, I pretty much am saying, hey, you're out and about, you're doing your thing, and you realize an intense emotion. So you just take a step back saying, hey, what is going on? For me, I'm like, ooh, there's a sensation in the right side of my chest or something like that. And then I think back like, well, what was I just doing or what was I thinking about? And then you just take the time to yourself to just figure out like, oh, what's going on? And you don't have to figure it out in 2 minutes because some people like myself, I used to get very impatient. I was like, why don't I know what's going on with me now? But then I have to be like, okay, you have to like calm, center, ground yourself, remove yourself from the situation and sit down and say, hey, what sensations are going on? Okay, what was happening in those sensations? And then just maybe have some time with yourself to be like, oh, what's going on? Because I know for me, it used to take me like a couple days to be like, what's going on? Now it just takes me a few minutes, but it's just practice, you know?
Yeah, it's practice and not judging.
Yeah, no judging. Don't judge yourself, guys.
No, there's no reason to.
Yeah, be kinder to yourself. Be nice to yourself.
I like it. I like it very much. Thank you so much for bringing that topic. Oh, and by the way, before we close it out,
yes,
I just want to say there's nothing wrong with wanting to be perfect, but just as long as it's not an expectation that you have to show up being perfect all the time. I mean, like, for instance, like if you're planning some special dinner, you just want things to be perfect, but have a little flexibility in perfectionism. Yeah. I know it's kind of like a
oh, wait, what? No, please explain. I'd like to know. Wait a minute. So don't have the expectation of being perfect all the time, but perfectionism. Now, what do you mean by that? I'm a little confused.
So let's just say you're planning something special, like a special dinner, and you just want it to be perfect.
Is it for you? Because you love yourself?
Sure.
All right, yeah. Kathleen's
and I just want it all to be perfect.
Is it a romantic dinner?
Okay.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah,
right?
why not?
Might as well, if I don't have romance knocking at the door, why not make my own, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
So you're just going to put something out there nice for yourself, and there's nothing wrong with wanting something to be just a perfect night or perfect whatever, but just be careful in the definition of what perfect is and have the flexibility to roll with what might show up.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah.
So then there's that careful guise of, judging, like, is that a bad thing, or is that just an opportunity to just switch things up a bit and make it a little more interesting? So I guess what I'm trying to get at it, there's nothing wrong with wanting something to be perfect, but just don't get hung up in perfectionism.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that would happen to me a lot when I was like, dating people or whatever. And I would like introduce, my significant other to people. And I'm just like, yes, this is going to be the perfect interaction. And I remember the first person I was dating, I was like, this interaction is going to be great. It was so ungodly uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, man. So, where was I going with this? Pretty much, I've had friends meet before. And now I'm just like, it's going to be perfect because they're just going to meet. And it's going to be great. And I'm letting go of like all this expectation. And it's nice. As opposed to being like, they're going to be best friends and this, because then it's a little too much.
Right. So what you've done is your perfection, it's more of a general perfection.
Just
right?
like, let's just get these people in a room.
I'm leaving space for it to unfold naturally, opposed to orchestrating every little piece of it.
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh, I used to be so bad with that.
Well, and I guess that's a level of perfectionism, is control, and you had said that in the very beginning.
Oh yeah. I will be the first to admit it. I'm trying to get better at it. It's been going better, so that's good. I'm aware of it, so I'm just like, hey, Sherry, just lean it back a bit. Just let things happen as they may. And it was a struggle. I was like, no, if I just manipulate this and do this, it'll just always work out this way.
This helped me some time ago. I had a manager, and we were really, really busy, but I kind of like this philosophy, and I kind of pull this in especially when I start getting hung up on wanting to be perfect or wanting to make sure something's really perfect. And please note, this doesn't mean don't try your best. You definitely want to try your best, but
don't show up.
Right. You got to show up at some point. It's just so you can have fun. Yeah. But 80% is good enough.
That's what I do.
So meaning that, like, I can plan and plan, but if 20% of it just kind of falls flat on its face, that's okay.
That's good.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because life throws stuff at us.
It really does.
And you know what, Sherry, my best times are when, like, I'm planning something perfect and then all of a sudden it just kind of explodes in my face and I just stand there laughing at it. And it's really it ends up being a fun hysterical moment. And that's the memory keepsake that I get to take with me, and then I later laugh at it.
Honestly, I feel like comedy is always the best because if I didn't laugh, I'd be very sad. I guess one story I think resonates with me is I tried to get like 7 of my friends to go to a sushi place. That's all I wanted. And everyone kept canceling, not. This person hated me on the phone. We go there and they said, hey, you said this amount of people. You said less. So now we have to get you to this really big table. And then we went to the really big table. There, the ceiling broke. So it was just leaking in my friend's food. So we had to go to the bar and the bar was super crammed and they gave us free ice cream. Now, I could have been very upset that my night was ruined, but it made for a very good story. So that's what I always say.
Yep. And then a story I can share is when my children were little, my sister and I were taking this long trip, a car ride up to see my parents, our parents. And my son was an infant and her son and my daughter were toddlers. Mm-hmm. And one of them starts to cry. Next thing you know, all 3 kids are crying in a small car. And oh my goodness, you talk about stress hitting the ceiling. And we didn't know what to do for them because we didn't know what the problem was. And we're all like on the big highway. So, and we're trying to appease and we've pulled over a couple of times and it didn't really seem to solve it. And then, we're finally on some of the back roads. And at one point, the screaming was through the roof. We just pulled over and I got the infant out of it and I'm like trying to coddle the infant and feed the infant and he wasn't having it. And then the other 2, the toddlers were like losing their minds. And my sister and I just looked at each other and we cracked up laughing because what else can you do at that point? Right. It just was just like craziness. And then Sherry, we were laughing so hard at the whole situation. 2 toddlers looked at each other, looked at us, and they just stopped crying. They're like, we don't know what to do with this.
We're just like, I don't know. I'm all cried out. I don't know. This is...
Yeah. So, we weren't perfect moms either, but at the same token, we found our moments to laugh and to let go of that and just be in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a very good note to have. Just like, don't take it all too seriously. Sometimes it doesn't work, and that's fine.
Yeah, and that's okay.
We can just laugh about it.
Right, because that's the joy of life, right?
Yeah, right. I'm so mad. There was a quote that I saw at Red Robin's. Life would be a lot sadder if there wasn't laughter or something to that effect. And I took it with me and I was like, yeah, I've definitely had my moments where there was a situation where it could be bad, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to laugh it off. It's fine. Everything is fine. I guess this is just happening right now. And that's usually what I do.
Well, thank you for that. I think we've perfectly perfected this conversation about perfectionism.
Can you say that again?
No.
I don't think I got that.
Well, thank you, Sherry, again for bringing us another lovely topic. I hope everyone's enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much for having me again.
You know what? You're always welcome.
Thank you. And I'm sticking around. You can't get rid of me.
Yay. And thank you for listening. We appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember that you are bigger than anything that you are going through or anything that is happening around you.